I have
Welcome.
to leave at 7, everybody.
All right. Welcome, everybody to You Be the Judge. My name is Dr. Paul Dyer, and my co-host, Judge Claudia Barber, and Marylin, Pierre, attorney at law. We like to come to you every Wednesday at 6 p.m. to talk about legal issues, things that's going on in our surrounding areas, and just talk about what is going on and how to attack it legally and get legal information, because we have some of the brightest minds on our show. I feel lucky. I'm not an attorney, but I'm surrounded by two incredible black women who are just know the law. But today we have a special guest coming on. Marylin, you want to introduce our guest, please?
Oh, yeah. Well, before I introduce it, I just want to correct you a little bit because Will is also a lawyer. So
That's
you are
right.
surrounded by lawyers.
I'm surrounded by law, which is amazing. And it's good for me. I can't get in trouble now.
Exactly. Oh, at least that's what is supposed to happen. but anyway, I am saddened to have to introduce the two speakers that we have for today, because Susan is arranging a rally for Kwamena Okran.
Yeah.
We spoke about Kwamena earlier in the year, because I went to a rally involving him, but I want Susan to be able to tell the story of Kwamena and why they're having a rally for him and all that kind of stuff. So Susan, please go ahead.
Welcome, Susan, to You Be the Judge. Please, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. My name's Susan. I'm with Silver Spring Justice Coalition, and this coalition was formed around the killing of justice for the killing of Black men by Montgomery County Police, and we are helping to organize a day of remembrance and celebration of the life of Kwamena Okran, who was killed by Montgomery County Police. No, he's killed by, I believe, Gaithersburg Police in Gaithersburg, Montgomery County, in January. And the celebration of his life is going to be in Gaithersburg on Saturday, April 24th. And it is from noon to 4 p.m. There's going to be a variety of activities. There's going to be some Know Your Rights training. There is going to be probably T-shirts and masks for sale for his remembrance that'll raise funds for the family. And they'll be giving out, they're putting together care packages for members of the local community. That was Kwamena's mother's idea. Mrs. Cooper, who I believe couldn't be here tonight, is Kwamena's mother, and she has been seeking justice for him. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to, on another occasion, she might be able to join. But
yeah, she said next week that she is going to be able to join us. But this week she already had a previous engagement and she couldn't join us. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened to Kwamena? Because I don't think anybody here has heard about him except maybe Dr. Dyer, because like I said, we discussed him before.
Yeah, and I just wanted to check because Kwamena's sister, Sarah, was perhaps going to join the call. I just wanted to make sure she's not on the call yet. I know she's in a different time zone, so it's possible there could be some time zone confusion.
Yes, that's true.
But I will... So Kwamena... so there, basically what happened was there were undercover police who were not, they were, potentially didn't identify themselves. They were dressed undercover. They were not wearing body cameras. Approached Kwamena, and he apparently displayed a gun, and that's when they shot him many times. I think I heard 24 times. Kwama's mother was able to see the body, and she said that he was shot in the back, and that I'm not 100% clear on, that's part of the thing, is they don't know exactly what happened and they want to find out. There's something that was said that after he was shot and he was on the ground, his body was turned over and then he was shot again in the front. She has not been able to get the medical examiner's report, any police report. She also hasn't had any contact from the Gaithersburg mayor or the county executive or the governor or any officials like that. Some of these killings get more attention, and there's, people like mayors are reaching out to the victim's family, and that really hasn't happened in her case. So she's looking for more information, and she's looking for reform, particularly of these, I think they're called street crimes units. And this would be like the undercover cops that apparently Kwame was lured out of his, where he was, his apartment. And they had been just waiting for him for hours. I also wanted to mention that there's a GoFundMe page, and Mrs. Cooper, Kwame's mother, has her description of what happened on that page, and it's a GoFundMe it's covering funeral expenses, and she doesn't live in the area, so it's covering her to travel to the area. And I can mention the GoFundMe. I think I have it as my background here, but it's let's see, it's GoFundMe.com/F/they-kill-him-because-of-a-tip. They killed him because of a tip, with dashes between each word. And so it's a GoFundMe. It also includes a description of what happened to Kwame.
Susan, thank you for coming on. Do you know if this is part of a no-knock warrant or a warrant that was trying to be issued if they were looking for him? And Marylin, the question I have, and for Claudia, is that what is the right way to? Is there a right way that you know of getting this type of tip and getting? I mean, it seemed like we're missing some information, or how they did it. Which one?
Oh, let me just first say that I put the GoFundMe link on the chat, so anyone who would like to help with the expenses that these matters sometimes cost could then go ahead and go to the GoFundMe page and help defray some of the costs of these things. To answer your question, Dr. Dyer, I know that the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights has recently been repealed. It was in the news that the governor would not sign it. The governor vetoed it, and the legislature, overruled their veto. So it has been repealed. And one of the things that's discussed in there is, with the new law, because it was repealed, but there was some discussions.
I'll be back.
And other things that were put in there. Okay, well, we'll see you later. Okay. And what was discussed was the no-knock warrants and things of that sort. Mm-hmm. Some people feel that because some of these laws there had to be compromises in them, some of these issues were watered down. And so, that's what happens sometimes. They felt like they had a stronger bill, but in order to actually get the bill to be passed, because there was a lot of opposition from the police unions, and also some politicians didn't want to go along with certain things in there unless it was watered down, and so parts of it were watered down. I don't know if Judge Barber, if you want to say anything about it.
Well, I do, but I wanted to clarify what Dr. Dyer's question was. Was it no-knock warrants, and is it in the new legislation or the old way of doing things before the new legislation passed? What specifically was your question?
The question I have was, we don't know what happened to Kwame, right? It seems that he got shot because of a tip. So is that the same as a warrant, or is it different?
I don't construe that as the same as a warrant. A warrant is a warrant, and it has to be signed off on by officials. Search warrants under the Fourth Amendment are usually signed off by a judge. So so there are no warrantless searches. That because that's where you have violations of Fourth Amendment rights within there, but there are exceptions, Terry stop exceptions. But for the most part, warrants are issued once the law enforcement, usually police officers in the state attorney's office, can convince a judge that there's probable cause. So once there is probable cause, then what is specific about the warrant? Is it a search warrant where you are permitted to search the premises? Mm-hmm. It's limited to the content of whatever is in the warrant. If it's a specific house, then you have the right to search that specific house. If it's a specific car or some other specific property, a boat or something to that effect. Now, the no-knock aspect of it really has to do with whether or not the officer can go upon the property and they believe that there is some imminent danger, that perhaps somebody inside is armed and dangerous. Okay. But in terms of the legislation that is before that was recently overridden based after the governor vetoed the legislation, there have been changes as it pertains to no-knock warrants. You can only do it during the day, and under very extreme circumstances, you do it at night. But as far as the rest of the bill is concerned, as Attorney Marylin Pierre was saying, there are major provisions that, the bill was proposed one way, and by the time it got all the way through those committees and the conference section, we still don't have a full civilian review board across the state. That's a biggie that got kind of smushed down into civilian participation on trial boards. And we don't have a situation where, you have a majority civilian weighing in on police misconduct. There were some wins. Mm-hmm. There were, the Anton's Law is a big win. Yes. And it's tragic that, his death had to lead to good legislation, in that direction. To the extent that police records are no longer considered all personnel files, and the public has access to misconduct types of complaints. Mm-hmm. That's important in assessing whether or not somebody is a good cop or a bad cop. And even to the extent that you have situations where somebody is exonerated, the circumstances that could have arisen during that situation could render somebody, they could get cleared based on a technicality or something, So, looking at the whole record is helpful. And so there were major changes, and so glad that House Speaker Adrienne Jones stuck to her agenda.
Yeah, me too.
And oh my goodness, even though everything didn't come out flowery, but she made some impressive gains during this legislative session. It was extensive.
It was impressive.
Oh, whew. But
yeah, it really, really was.
But she also made impressive gains with the HBCU settlement. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is just so huge. And so, that's been dragging on for more than a decade, 12 or 15 years. And to the extent that it took that long, wearing people down and getting justice, that's something that is of major concern. So those pieces of legislation along the lines of police reform, they really are causing changes. Now, the House bills, they will take effect, I believe, July 1. The Senate bills that passed will take effect October 1. So you have, and then the other big event was body worn cameras across the board, all over the state, and that's another huge development, and it's a win.
But they said that's not until 2025 that it's going to be required for. And going back to Juanena's case, because they were undercover police officers, I don't think that they would have had body cams anyway. Right, Susan? Is that? Oh, sorry.
Were there?
There were not body cameras. They were undercover. There was no body camera footage that, as far as they've said. And that is something that Mrs. Cooper is interested in, is, potentially having a bill out there that would be in Juanena's name to require body cam, some kind, it obviously wouldn't be the really visible body camera, but there's other technology, some kind of body camera on undercover detectives.
Hold on, Claudia, I'm saddened in a couple of ways. I'm saddened that we don't have money in our coffers as people to bury a human being because they were killed in an incident, right? So that's one. It's almost sad that, because if my mother, when she was alive, I didn't live near my mother all those many years. So if she had to travel when she can't afford it to bury her son, me, that's a sad case. And the other sad issue I have is the amount of times he was fired. Do you know if he had a gun, Susan? Do you know if that's an issue? Do you know, did he have a weapon? Because 26 times, I know we had a family member that got shot 21 times when he was killed in New York. And, no gun. But 26 times, that seems excessive to me, and maybe not to them. I don't know. Because 26 bullets, that sounds like almost about 10 officers.
I think there were I'm not 100% on the facts, but my understanding is there were 4 undercover officers.
Okay.
They had been waiting for him to come out. In fact, somebody basically lured him out, and that he did have a gun. That I don't think he necessarily pointed the gun at anyone, but they saw a gun. That's what the reporting has been. There were several news reports around this. But beyond that, there really isn't a lot of information because, again, there's no body camera. There's just what the police are saying, and there's just a lot of fishy stuff around that. So. Yeah,
and also if they say that he had a gun, there's no, Kwamena is not here to say, no, I didn't have it. Or if they say that he even pointed a gun at them, he's not here to say that either. And also the thing about if you come out and you see 4 people just waiting around and they don't identify themselves as police officers, you might even notice that they have a gun. So it's...
Well, the other part of the police reform legislation has to do with the fact that when you have body-worn cameras, there's a whole new level of accountability attached to having body cameras, because as opposed to not having them. When you do have them, there's no second guessing about, well, did he have his knee on my neck or my shoulder? The camera may very well tell you that. And, the other important thing is the fact that I think that oftentimes when you don't have body cameras, you often are placed in a situation where you have the cop's word versus the suspect's word. Mm-hmm. And to that extent, oftentimes people are going to write stories to favor them. Mm-hmm. They're going to protect themselves. They're not going to write a report that condemns them or convicts them of any crime. That's just common human nature.
So with undercover cops, with undercover people, Judge Barber, there's no way around that. They're not going to wear cameras. Undercover police officers, I don't think we could ever get them to wear cameras. I think that's almost going to be impossible.
Yeah, I think so too. I think M has a question. So, M, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, this is Mitten. Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you very much.
I mean, I know who you were, but I thought you were trying to hide your identity. So
right. Because I was thinking if I can show the video, but we can do it as you said. Whenever you're prepared, we will be happy to. So I was thinking of when I saw those 2 videos. Oh my gosh! Just a traffic stop and the person is shot to death. So unfortunate. And also the U.S. Army personnel in Virginia was pepper sprayed. And so if this is happening to an officer of U.S. Army, think about that. What can happen to a person of color who is not even an Army officer or even just a normal citizen?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the lieutenant incident, because the man is a lieutenant. Give him all the respect in the world. A military lieutenant, and to be treated in that type of harsh bullying capacity, and the fact that the other part that's bothersome is that, this officer that mistreated him literally stayed on the force for months. It wasn't until the video surfaced did the outrage come. And then all of a sudden, Virginia's like, okay, we don't do things like that. The man should have been gone out of the force.
I totally agree. And I wanted to say one more thing, because what happened if you see the video and if you see the reporting, even the video doesn't matter, because it came on the news. I think that's what matters, because people starting to know. And if you see the police report, they have said, oh, the lieutenant army officer tried to assault the police when he was trying to open the door. So this is very important, because who is the aggressor? Okay, I'm not an attorney like distinguished people sitting in this, on this meeting. I'm just a normal human being, person of color, and a minority. I can understand aggressor can be very, 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 give a lot of liberty for police to act what they can do. Okay.
Mitchum, hold on a second. Hold on. Marylin, we talked about this before. What do you think, after watching the video, what could we do as motorists, as black males, black people getting pulled over in that instant? Was there a way we could to lessen this incident that you have seen? Was there a way we could talk to an officer? Because because we need to change something because we're dying fast. And I know they need to change something, but is there a way you think we could have said something that would have de-escalated it?
Well, to tell you the truth, as Vitam was speaking, I looked it up, so I have not seen the video. I had not even heard about it because I was shocked this morning when I woke up to hear that there was a shooting in Tacoma Park a couple of days ago and 2 people got killed. I was like, why had I not heard about this, when it happened? And Susan, I don't know if the Silver Spring Justice Coalition has been looking into that shooting and if you are able to say anything about it.
Yeah, we've been following that also, and there is a vigil. It's actually in Northeast DC for the 2 gentlemen who were killed, and it's I believe it's tomorrow evening. I could probably find more details about that. The Silver Spring Justice Coalition has several ways that there's a web page, there's a Facebook page, they have a Twitter, they have an email discussion list. So a lot of this, there's ways to pick up on what SSJC is doing. But I'm trying to see when this, there actually is a vigil coming up. I'll come, if you want to come back to me, I'll let you know when that's
Judge Barber, did you see the video?
I did. You're talking about the Virginia incident, the Windsor, Virginia incident? Yes. I did.
Yeah. Is there a way we could have de-escalated that as a motorist?
Well, there are specific factual things that happened. Number one, as we learned from the video, that he only continued to drive after he saw the sirens because he did not understand why he was being stopped and he wanted to go to a lit area. Now, to me, that's common sense, and that's not a reason to go blow off on somebody, blow up like the officer did, and get out of the car and all this kind of stuff. So to answer your question, if he had stopped before he got to a lit area, then he may have learned sooner what the stop was about. But to the extent that he traveled until he got to a gas station, again, as I said before, still no reason to treat a citizen, let alone a respected military personnel, in such a harsh manner. Get out of the car, hold your hands up, and then pepper spray the person, and then handcuff the person, and then just make this into a serious. I've always had a problem with these situations where the officers, the only charge is resisting arrest, and there's no underlying reason for you to stop the person, for you to arrest the person other than resisting arrest. So those are always problematic cases. And to the extent that, this happened, and to me, it should have ended with him seeing the license plate and goodbye, thank you, I saw the license plate. But see, it didn't go there.
No,
it didn't stop there.
But we had
on and on and on, guns drawn. But the man was clearly had his hands up in the air.
But I remember this very distinctively, Marilyn. Hold on, that we talked about this on air. If we feel safe of going to a lit area, I know Marilyn had said this, call 911, let them know you see light, you're in this car, you're traveling on this road. I know there's lights behind them. I'm not resisting arrest. I'm just trying to find a lit area to feel safe in. Now, I know Marilyn had said that. You have to call 911. And he didn't probably call 911. And if he did, we don't know about it. But I understand of getting to a lit area. But like you said, how was that resistance? Because it's not like he was speeding away. He probably slowed down and found a lit area. Go ahead, Marylin.
Yeah, and even though that's the best situation, I can tell you sometimes I'm driving and my car falls. I'm sorry, not my car. My phone falls to the side or something like that, and I can't just, if somebody pulls behind me, I can't reach and get the car. So that's the optimal situation. But I just watched the video as Claudia and you were speaking earlier, and I don't see anything that he could have done differently. I mean, yes, you pull someplace where there's lights. And the reason why we talked about that is because there's some police officers who are out there doing people harm. I remember a couple of times where they said police officers would pull women over and, get them into the bushes and do their business and then, and then leave. So I definitely have always told people, hey, you need to go to a place that's lit for your own safety, because you never know who's behind you. It might be a good cop or it might be a bad cop. And since you don't know which one, it's better for your own personal safety to do what you can to protect yourself. So that gentleman did that. He then had his arms out and he even said, I'm afraid to come out of the car because you might hurt me, in which case, and I could see why with the yelling and screaming and, everything else that
was acting irrational.
Right,
that was acting, above and beyond, because he's like, I didn't do anything. Why are they acting this way? Why is he screaming at me? Why is he shouting at me? Why is he ordering me around as though I've committed a felony?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Judge Barber.
But this goes to a point that I want to make in terms of the fact that many civil rights attorneys and those who are experienced in civil rights and equal justice under the law initiatives, they are aware of the history of law enforcement and the fact that it's rooted in racism. Yeah. It's rooted in slave patrol. Mm-hmm. It's rooted in running the plantation and ordering people around. And some people sign up and to be on the force so they can have access to information the public doesn't have about people. And that's why you often see in incidents like the Mississippi burning, where, you have an all-white sheriff's office actively participating in the murder of 3 civil rights workers. And not everybody in the office necessarily, but the fact of the matter is that law enforcement wants that access and control over your every move. But they have no remorse for rudely talking to African Americans and treating them like they're less than human. They have no remorse over the fact that, they are dehumanizing and have no respect for life at all. The focus of this whole George Floyd trial, Derek Chauvin trial, rather, is sparing Derek Chauvin's life, not George Floyd's, Derek Chauvin's life. And so it's the fact that we have to jump through all of these hoops and put through all of this police reform legislation to have the government treat us like we should be treated, like normal citizens. Well, why do we need laws to do that? For you to act like a good cop instead of a bad cop.
You're absolutely correct, Judge, Honorable Judge. I just want to point 2 things, what you said just now, if I may. The police officer, he agreed later on that he understood why he was going in the lighted area, because 80% of the cases he's seen that people of color or minority people do that. That he said after things were calm. He said that he understood why he was going to the well-lit area. And another thing I see, the army lieutenant asked them why he was being stopped.
I think we lost Mitchum.
Where is your number plate? I cannot see your number plate. Do you have a number plate? And he could have answered, "Hey, it is there temporary. It's been taped in the window or something like that." And what another thing I want to say, Miss Marylin said that call 911. Now, what happens if you are driving and you're calling 911, and the police see you calling on the phone while you're driving? Even they have no grounds to give you a ticket. They will say, "Oh, you know what? You are driving. Your hands were not free." If your hands are not free, you're calling. That can be another problem. This is my personal opinion. I don't know, because
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because what happened is that, see, before they had in Maryland, they had initially, it will be a secondary offense. Then they can pull, because if your lights broke, then they can say, "Oh, you know what? You're on the phone, so we're pulling you." But now there is a law. You guys know better than me. I'm just a normal person. Now there is, if you're on the phone, there is no problem with your car or anything. They can still pull you over and give you a ticket. Now, if we follow that, especially person of color like me, and I'm calling 911 when I'm being stopped, they say, "Hey, you know what? Everything fine, but you're on the phone. So here you go, $200 ticket."
So Susan,
I was hoping that the person would be on speakerphone when if they were capable of calling 911 and they called 911, they would be on speakerphone. But I think it's important to note that we've always had these problems in the community, and the community certain communities have known that. It's just that without cameras, it was difficult to get other people to believe that these things were actually happening. And now, even with the cameras, these things are actually still happening. So that shows you how bad it was before there were cameras. And it isn't just about people being pulled over. I'm still thinking about that little 5-year-old who got yelled and screamed at, January last year, when he left the school grounds by these police officers who were the same color as he was. So it's not so much a color thing nowadays. It's just the system saying that this is the way that we're going to treat you, regardless of what color we are. If you are a certain color, because I don't see that sort of behavior when it comes to treating people who are not black,
Marylin,
or people of color.
Marylin, I got a question for you. A family member's having trouble getting an autopsy. What could be the reasons for that, and how do we go about it as family members? Do we just keep requesting an autopsy? I mean, how does that go as a legal issue?
There's so many questions having to do with that. I prefer not to get into that, because it depends on, how the person died, where they died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The possible cause of death and all those kinds of things. So, and whether they want the first one or the second one. So I prefer to just concentrate on what we're talking about, all the different things that we're talking about.
Well, because, go ahead, Susan.
Susan's ready. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I mentioned this, but this may be what you're referring to, Doctor, but that Mrs. Cooper had asked when can she get the autopsy, and she was told 5 to 6 years.
Wow.
Okay.
And she asked, is it because it was a police-involved shooting? And they told her yes.
Okay, now I'm confused.
But where is Kwamena's body then? Because he died in January and this is April.
So I don't want to like mischaracterize. I don't have every piece of information. I believe she did have an opportunity to see the body. He was given a Muslim burial and a Muslim preparation for burial, and it was at that point that she was able to see the body. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know if she had any other. That may have been the only chance she had to see the body.
Oh wow! So she might. I'm kind of surprised that she didn't ask for an autopsy to be done by somebody privately.
Well, can you do that?
But then some people don't know that, so maybe she just didn't know that.
I still
can have private autopsies done,
but I don't
have bodies exhumed and have an autopsy done.
But why the 5 years? I mean, why would that number? Is that just because it is the city doing the autopsy and they'll do it when they can't? Why such a long period of time.
That doesn't make any sense to me, because even if the state's attorney decides that he's not going to bring a case, they could still bring a civil case. And in the civil case, that would be, I would say, Exhibit A in reference to proving their case. So I don't understand why. Maybe somebody who doesn't know much decided that they were going to give advice on something they didn't know much about. What do you think, Liz? Because you're a lawyer as well. Do any of the other lawyers want to, get in on this, or anybody else?
Well, my thought would be getting a private autopsy would be pricey. And that's the thing. That's something that the average person or relative couldn't afford to do. If the state's not going to, it's I don't think,
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But see,
so maybe that was
the autopsy has to be done because a shooting was involved and an individual was killed.
Okay, Claudia froze, but in the meantime, Sarah.
Hello? I think Marylin just froze. Claudia, you were saying about the shooting? If because it was a shooting, an autopsy should have been done anyway. So with that, is that able to be released to me as a parent or a family member or attorney?
It should be. And many times the autopsy results are public records that people know about. I mean, we all know the results of Whitney Houston's death and the cause of death. So many famous people that's not private information. The chief medical examiner's office is a government agency.
So as far as we know, why Kwame was shot is because he had a gun. Is that the only?
Well, we don't know actually. This is, I think, the dribs and drabs that are coming in. And so since the family's not being told anything except what the authorities want to tell them, and that's why I'm glad Sarah is here, because Sarah is Kwamena's sister, and so she'll be able to explain more. Susan has been doing an excellent job trying to help us understand what happened to Kwamena and what we can do to help. But Sarah, do you want to tell us some more? You could take yourself off mute. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And we're really sorry for your loss. And we're here trying to understand things. We're not trying to exploit your grief or anything else. We just want to see if we could help in any way.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of my brother. Kwamena was very loved, and he will truly be missed. My family and we are very grateful for you guys giving us a platform to hear our side and how we feel about our brother and our loved one, Kwamena.
You're welcome. Can you share any other light on what we don't know? Can you tell us what's going on with the case? What was their reason? Do you, like that information? Is there a way you can? Do you have some pieces of that?
Yes, sir. I do apologize. The information that I have, it was given from my mom, my stepmom. Kwamena and I and all of our siblings, we all grew up together. And Kwamena, this time I could say when he came home, he was ready to change. And him and I talked daily, and he would just always tell me how he wanted to come to Texas, because I live in Texas now. And I came out here to be closer to my dad. Well, we ended up losing my dad back in September. And then shortly after my dad passed, my grandma passed. And Kwamena, my grandma, was very, very close. And as far as his case goes, his mom, Miss Melanie Cooper, she's doing everything in her power to get awareness of the situation that happened to my brother. She actually had a radio conference this evening, and she asked me if I could speak on my brother's behalf. And I do apologize. It's just, it still feels so unreal that this has happened to my brother. And I'm sorry, I haven't really been able to process this, and it's still fresh. The wound is still new, and my family, we're just trying to be strong for him and to understand that what happened to him, it wasn't an accident. It was murder. It's no other way to put it. And like I said, I wish I had more words to express, but I don't, because I'm still in grief of losing my brother. But we are trying to raise awareness in the communities across the world about Kwamana's story, because Kwamana needs to be heard. His story needs to be told so that history will not repeat itself. And I wish there was more resources that we could have to have the proper people to look into my brother's case so that he can get the justice that he deserved. It's just unfortunate, that my brother lost his life from a tip. The police were tipped off, and
what did they say about? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sarah, but what did they say the tip was? Because Kwamana was supposed to be getting himself ready to even go back to Africa to become king of his. Yes. And you could explain who he was in terms of that. So he had plans for his future. So what tip did they claim that they had?
So I don't know if this is like accurate information. So I don't want to persuade it like it was given to me directly, because it was just told to me. Again, I live in Texas, and when my brother came home late October, he wanted so bad. He wanted for our family to be by his side. It really goes back to when he came home. He didn't have that support initially. And when the family tried to jump in and to support him, the company that Kwamana kept, he thought he could trust them. Anybody, I guess, when you feel like you can trust somebody, you try to trust them until the trust is broken. Well, in this situation, my brother trusted some people that he was staying with. And from my understanding, one of the young men that my brother was hanging with was in communication with the police. The police didn't have no body cam, none whatsoever. They were in street clothes. Then they approached my brother as if they knew who he was. So, in my honest opinion, I feel like my brother was either fight or flight, right? So Kwam knew he couldn't fight them off because they are police, and he knew them just like how they knew him, because these officers that killed my brother has been in communication with my brother before that day. These are the same officers that has arrested Kwam when Kwam was doing and being out in Montgomery County years before this even occurred. So these officers had a personal relationship with Kwamana when Kwamana was locked up before in Montgomery County. But I do apologize. I don't know one of the officers' names. He was a resident here in Texas, and something happened where he has an open case here in Texas, and he left Texas to go to Maryland. and he became a police officer in Maryland. And I do apologize because I don't have his name right in front of me. But of the four, he's one of the four that killed my brother. And then the whole story of the police saying that they chased him on Fredericksburg and then they cornered him and killed him next to a highway. I didn't understand that. If they say that he had a gun, I have yet to hear any new information of them finding a gun. My mom tried to get my brother's clothes. The police still wouldn't give, because they're keeping it for evidence. They won't give his clothes. They won't give up his phone. Like, these are the things that my mom wants closure. She's trying to deal with this thing the best way that she can. And she also wants justice for her son. So imagine your 24-year-old baby being a teenager, being a kid, and get caught up in some crossfire from a tip. And not even saying if this tip is true or not, but the police reacted off of a tip that they received, but we don't have any body cam and we don't have no evidence that they received a tip, but this is what it's saying in a police report, that they have received a tip. However, if you received a tip, how did you know that he was Kwamina? Why did you ask him, are you Kwamina? What would make him run away from you if he wasn't scared? My brother was scared. These men killed my brother, and there's no other way to say that. They killed him.
And for those of us who have been in this discussion earlier, we know what Sarah is talking about, but in reference to the people who have joined us, we're talking about Kwamina Okren. Kwamina was shot, we heard, maybe around 24 times back in January of 2021 in Gaithersburg, Maryland. He was shot by 4 undercover police officers in Gaithersburg. That's all we know. We don't know anything else because, like Sarah was saying, the family's trying to get some information, but information is not very forthcoming. I don't know if anybody knows, whether Sarah or Susan, whether either one of you know if the case is being investigated by, usually these cases go to the Howard County State's Attorney's Office for investigation, since they think that there might be a conflict of interest with the Montgomery County Police Department.
And that's what I didn't understand. Like, why is Howard County even involved and it happened in Montgomery County? They keep switching up the story. The police keep switching up the story. One minute they say they chased him, the next minute they say they didn't. They said they were in a parking lot chasing him, but his body was found next to a highway. But if y'all was in an apartment complex, how did he end up next to the highway on Fredericksburg Road, dead? Then then my mom has talked to people who actually seen it all happen. Live evidence that the police killed them. And then when people were coming up to figure out what was going on, the police were telling people to go back in their homes. I lived in DC my whole life. And that's half of the reason why I left, because of the violence there. Even in DC, when the cops are undercover and they in street clothes, they still have on body cam. For whatever reason, this particular day, I still can't wrap my mind around why didn't they have body cam. But you can hear them killing my brother. You can hear them shooting and giving a location where they are, and they are killing my brother. And that's all you hear.
Is that from a 911 tape? Where did you hear that from?
This is the video that they have released, the very first video that they have released. On the video recording, there's a 911 dispatcher. Okay. She's asking a police officer the location. He gives the location on Fredericksburg Road, and then you hear the gunshots. You never see my brother. You never see the police. That's all you hear are the gunshots.
Oh, so who had a video? I thought none of the 4 police officers had videos had a video camera on them?
No video. This is they say it was helicopter footage. You never see a helicopter. In this video, you never see a helicopter. You just hear the police talking to the 911 dispatcher. She's asking them where they are. And he says the address on Fredericksburg Road. And on this video, all you hear is them talking and then the gunshots.
Mrs. Cooper, Kwamena's mom, is going to be on the show next week. Hopefully, if you could send me the link to the video, I would have that all set up and we could look at the video next week when she's there.
Yes, ma'am.
The recording, whatever it is that you have.
Yes, ma'am. I would definitely do that. Yes, ma'am, because it feels like a nightmare. It feels like
it is a nightmare.
We are living in a dream and cannot wake up. Kwame was so full of life. He wanted to get a job. He expressed how deeply he wanted to work, how he wanted to change his life around, how he knew that he wanted better for himself, and he tried. And I can say that to you all. My brother did try to change his life. He really did. He really did. He reached out when he was in a dark place. He called me and we talked things through because he knew that he wanted better this time. Could you imagine being locked up? You come home and then your parent died. And your parent died and then your grandma dies. That is a lot. That was a lot for him in a nutshell. But then to lose his life senselessly, like an animal, wow.
I want to thank you.
It seems especially tragic, being that he was about to go and lead his people.
He was supposed to go to Africa.
Yeah.
My brother is a king in Africa. We have family in West Africa. He is a prince. And he holds a very big stake in our family because of our family tradition and because of his name, Kwame Appa Okran. That is my great-granddad's name. And he was a king. And Kwame falls in his footsteps because of the bloodline and because of the name. He was getting ready to go home to Africa, and he couldn't.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. We're going to have to begin to close the show, but we got to figure out a couple of things. And thanks, Judge Barber. I know you have to take off. You have another thing to go to. We'll see you next week. I'll see you sooner than later. When we're going through these things, there's almost like a checklist for a family member that we have to put together because we're not getting district attorney. Like, there's information we're missing when these things happen, and we don't have access to them because of XYZ, because of something. What is that short checklist, Marylin?
I was thanking people for joining us, so I'm sorry. If you could please repeat that.
No, what is that meant? What is that checklist you think we should have in case one of our children or people we love get shot by a shooting? What is the checklist? Because we're not, whether it be reports not giving, whether it be, is there a charge? Like, there's things that we need to check off and bury our child. Is there like a short checklist we should have? Is there an attorney for Kwame? Do we know?
Mrs. Cooper does have a lawyer. I forgot his name. He's in Montgomery County. And hopefully next week when she joins us, he might be able to join us as well.
That'll be helpful.
Yeah. First of all, in terms of a checklist, I hope that no one ever has to go through this.
I was about to say, I hope nobody don't have no checklist because it's no way you can ever prepare for this, to have a checklist. It's no way. It's no way to ever prepare for the loss of a loved one by gun violence, and death, period. It's no way to try to cope or to have a checklist with it. And it haven't even been that long. My wound is still open. I'm still hurt. I'm fighting back tears right now because I know that he's in a better place and I know that he's not hurting, but a big part of me is like, now what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
As a community of people, what do we do now? Do we sweep this under the rug and let it keep going?
No.
Hell no, we can't.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Justice has to be served. We have to do something as a community of people, because if not my brother, it could be your brother, it could be your grandson, your brother, your uncle, your loved one. This was not right what happened to my brother.
No,
And
Miss
he
Sarah,
deserved
our heart goes to you, and sincere condolences to you and your family. This is so heartbroken. And I got assaulted in my own house. Okay, I got assaulted by police in my own house, and I filed a criminal charge to the police against the police, which the commissioner didn't want to file. They wanted to refer to the state attorney's office. And initially they said that I was not assaulted in an email, and then they didn't even interview me. They didn't even do any proper investigation. And even I filed a complaint to the Department of Internal Affairs, and they had a wonderful detective initially, but second time they had another detective who told me that 90% of the police shootings are justified. And this is the detective they assigned in my case to investigate the police. And how we can stop this system is, see, when they assaulted me in my own house, I just complied because I know they were wrong. And they did an investigation and they found the police at fault. And I and my wife, we never testified because we didn't have to a record with them.
I want to thank everyone for showing up. We're going to continue this conversation.
Okay.
I will see everyone next week.
They found
Wednesday,
the police
you be the judge.
Assault, and
if you ever want to have any more questions while we're watching
because
this
what
on
happened,
air,
this police
we will
get
talk
away
to you
with
later. God
assault.
bless.
They